You're about to enjoy a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands.
Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the CEO Leading In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of CEO. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights, despite their sometimes rocky paths, and found a way to lead in. Today, we are with Regina Brown from KRB Consulting Pros, LLC. Regina, how are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
Well, you look wonderful, and I'm excited to hear all about your journey.
You.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your day looks like with your business and what you do?
Okay. Thank you again for having me. I am the owner of KRB Consulting Pros. I started my business originally I started my business back in 2009. I was the executive director for the Congressional Black Caucus in D.C. and started the business working with the members of Congress on education and strengthening the political parties that we had, and we're bipartisan. So we invited everyone to come in. I left the Institute back in 2013 because we relocated to San Diego. My husband is now a retired Navy pilot, but we came to San Diego and the travel just, got to be a bit too much for me. So I went to work for the San Diego Airport Authority. There is where I developed my passion for local and small businesses and strengthening the community. While I was working there, I was in charge of several different airport projects as it related to the small businesses. So my job was to pretty much bring small businesses in, get them certified, connect them with the prime consultants, and make sure they were being treated fairly and that they had every opportunity to do business at the airport authority. About 2 years ago, I got to thinking, I do a lot of this work, but, I'm working for a public agency. You're limited in what you can do and who you can help as it relates to outside, small businesses outside of San Diego. And although they were always open to me helping whomever, but, you're still limited. So I decided to take this journey and reinvent KRB Consulting Pros to now better serve the small business community in San Diego. And so I started this business, and I kind of looked at it as a way. I wanted to kind of continue what we had started or what I had started on my journey at San Diego with the small businesses. So a day for me looks like, and I'm not a registered lobbyist, so let me just say that right up front, but lobbying for the small businesses in San Diego, actually in California, helping them to get certified with their airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise certification, their disadvantaged business enterprise certifications, their Weebies, all of the certifications that they might qualify for. I help the minorities in San Diego and California get certified. I am a master connector because it doesn't matter what city I seem to go to. I know just about everybody. And so I connect people. I connect the small businesses, those who are interested in getting airports. I help them with their connections with the prime concessionaires. And then I do a lot of I have an MBA in HR management. So I help with business development. I help with the structures of their businesses. So a day for me is all of that wrapped up into one. Meetings after meetings after meetings.
But I bet you meet some amazing people.
I do.
Amazing people.
I
And
do.
people that are really starting out and trying to make something of themselves, which I think is inspiring in itself. So when my ex and I started our business, I remember, oh gosh, I didn't know how to work a computer. And I remember buying my first Compaq. I remember the first time I actually turned it on and I thought, oh, geez, I don't know what I'm doing. It's so scary. And so to have someone, and it's different. I mean, you're not teaching them how to use a computer, but to get through all of the paperwork and help them get to a
Navigate.
point.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I think in your job, watching how they evolve from starting out
Oh my
into where
gosh.
they go, I think that would be really cool.
It's amazing. Someone once asked me, how do you measure success? And I always say, um, I measure success by the lives and the I impact along the way. And so when I look at an opportunity, when I'm given an opportunity, I immediately look at that opportunity and find ways within that opportunity to help a small business that I may have run into. I mentor students, so I'm looking at ways to help college students evolve, after they graduate. So I'm always looking at that. So it's inspiring for me, but I love to see people grow. I love to see people's businesses grow. That's what makes me smile.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, so when you see someone just first starting out, and I bet you probably see, because you've been doing this for a while, I bet you see things within them that they don't even see within
Oh,
themselves.
yeah. From the beginning, one of the things, and this is not something, when I worked for the airport authority, it wasn't, no one gave me a script. It's basically, how do you see working with the small businesses in San Diego? And so I took that same concept and I use it now. How do I see a small business growing? And so when I meet a small business, like I have quite a few small businesses here in San Diego that I work with. My first small business, I will tell you, and I guess it's okay to say who it is, Christian Gomez with Whetstone Wine Bar. I was actually meeting a student at his restaurant for lunch, just to go over to help her with her resume. And he overheard us talking and overheard that, where I was working or I had previously worked. And he came over afterwards and he said, I just want to talk to you about how, how I could work with you. And so we set up a meeting. And the first thing I asked him, like I do all of my clients, is, where do you want to be? And I'm not going to say that 5, that 10 year, because that's a stretch, right? Where do you want to be in the next 30 days? And from there, where do you want to be in the next 60 days, right? And this is what I see about you based off of what you've told me, based off of the fact that he's been in business in the same location in Bankers Hill for 13 years. Restaurants typically don't do well, for 13 years, at some point, and especially starting out. I mean, and he's in a location where you would not even know that he was there. There are hair salons around him, and like apartments. And so I told him, I said, I see you in an airport. I see this business because the music is amazing. It's vibrant. It's a Mediterranean feel and flair and food and wines and things. And so I told him, I said, I see you in an airport and this is what I see. And he looked at me like, wow, like, seriously? And then he said, yeah, I see that too. So that's what I like to see. Because I feel like that first conversation, if you can see the fire in a person's eyes about what you're telling them and where they want to see their business, then you can, sky's the limit. You can help them get anywhere and do anything.
Well, and I think a lot of times, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you feel like a lot of times people just need someone to believe in them.
Yes.
To say, hey,
Yes.
guess what?
You can do this, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they need
Yeah.
someone for that. I think they also need someone, because a lot of times they don't even know this exists. Like out with the airports. That's why airports are so fascinating to me, because people don't think of airports. It's like a city within a city, right? That's what they always say. People think, it's flight attendants, pilots, TSA.
It's us.
It's everybody.
It's us.
Exactly.
It's us. We're the ones that are going to
Exactly.
the airports. Yeah.
But people who are going to do business, they don't think like that, initially. So they don't even know that these opportunities exist. And so I just found that fascinating when I started my journey at the airport, because I'm thinking to myself, wow, I didn't even know a lot of it existed. I learned so much from the leaders at San Diego. It was amazing. And so when a small business, they know their business, but when they come in, they're just like, okay, well, what can you help me with? And then a lot of times, especially with a lot of construction small businesses, they're so busy. They're small shops. So they're so busy doing the day-to-day, they don't have time to think about the other things, right? If they're working on a project, sometimes those projects consume so much of their time. They're up to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning doing their paperwork. And so if I call one and said, hey, there's an opportunity at the airport, but you have to be certified in this, they look at me like I don't have time for that. Right. And that's where the airport, San Diego, was really good about having a small business program, because not all airports have those programs. That program is designed to help the small businesses.
Well, and I think a lot of small businesses don't realize that you have to invest one way or another to actually grow and get to the next level.
Exactly.
And when you were talking about, 13 years in the same location, he probably never looked outside those 4 walls.
No.
Because it was just too daunting. He was worried about putting food on his table and paying his employees and all of the things that a small business would need to focus on.
Exactly.
And that just seemed crazy outside of his wheelhouse.
It probably did. And, but then when you have someone that comes to you and, but actually, when I started talking with him, he said, he named a couple of prime concessionaires that had come to him some years ago. And talked to him, I guess, when the airport was building the Greenville Terminal 2, a couple prime concessionaires came to him and just, had a conversation, because he was a local small business. And they really wanted to engage small businesses in San Diego and local. And so nothing ever became of it, but he was familiar with a little bit of what I was saying based off of that conversation he had, maybe, I think it was like 8 years prior. And he never, nothing happened with that. So for him to meet me, or us to connect, and then, I said, sure, I will help you. I said, because, and quite honestly, I was working with the prime concessionaire, and they wanted to put him in an airport in John Wayne up in Orange County. But then COVID happened. And this prime, which I thought was so incredibly nice of them, I mean, the honesty, they said, we could put him in that airport, but COVID has hit, and we don't know how travelers are going to react. It was in March.
Right. Oh, gosh.
April of last year.
Oh, gosh.
And so they said, let's hold off. And, and that was good, because they could have easily said, yeah, let's stick him there. Let's take his money, put him in there. But they said, no, we don't want to do that. And so we didn't. And it was the best thing, Yeah. And now we're looking at other opportunities for him. So it is. It's just, once he's in an airport, that's going to be it for me. I'm just going to be so happy, all of my small businesses, because I have about 5, and I just want to see them successful, because the whole idea is to help them grow to the point where they grow out of these small business programs, and they're the primes, and then they can go back and help someone.
Well, kind of looking at your job,
Okay.
I think one of the things you just based on what you just said, I think timing is also a really important part of this whole thing.
Yes.
Even prior to COVID.
Yes.
I mean, really timing, if a company is not quite ready to do it,
right.
I think you probably have enough experience to figure that one out.
Yes.
Because if you try to jump the gun, it just doesn't work.
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't
work.
we have literature manuals that tell us what opportunities are going to be coming up within the next 3, 4, or 5 years at each airport. So we kind of start working with that airport. Like I'm working with several airports right now that have opportunities coming out within the next 3 years for my clients here. And yeah, so when the time comes and they're looking for certain concepts or brands, I can go to them and say, and that's where that relationship lobbying comes in because I have the networking. I network, I go to the conferences, I'm on calls every week. We have in-person visits. I have some people that come to my home to visit with me, just to hang out. And so we building those relationships so they know if I'm going to bring them somebody, it's going to be somebody solid. Because I've had quite a few people come to me and say, "Hey, I want you to represent me." But I don't think their product is solid. And I'll tell them we need to do certain things because maybe an airport has enough burger joints, right? Maybe that's not going to, work.
I think you're an incubator too.
I'm an incubator, yes.
You really are. I mean, looking at, the timing and kind of saying, okay, they're not quite ready yet, but maybe they'll be ready here.
Yep.
I think that is...
and then opportunity just hits you sometimes.
Right.
Because I have one client, they have these pods where you can go in and kind of take meetings. They're called Jabberbox. And, when I met with them initially, I said, well, what is your, what locations would you like to see yourself in? Because they look like a phone booth. And so people go in, they take meetings, they take calls, they work, and it's pay by the hour or what have you, right? So I said, what locations would you like to be in? And they told me. And one of the locations, I have a lot of friends there, connections there, and I knew they were looking for something different and they had a lot of space. Well, now we're going into their space and they were just awarded like 11 units. So they can put their box in 11 different areas in that airport.
Wow.
This just happened so that was just timing.
Yeah.
That's nowhere in any manual. That's just that they had extra space and they were looking for something to put in those spaces that could generate non-airline revenue. And I just happened to go in. So sometimes you have that kind of luck as well,
Oh, I don't think it's luck. Don't undersell yourself. Don't say that.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right. So I want to know a little bit about you as a person.
Oh, gosh.
I was going to ask you a story, but I actually think because I want to hear more about all of what you're doing because I find it fascinating. But tell me one word that you think really captures who you are. And I might want to weigh in on what I think because I literally have one word, but I want you to tell me what your word is.
So I was thinking about that because I knew you were going to ask me. And I said, there are a lot of words, but I would say the one word for me is I'm ambitious. And I want others to be ambitious. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I've always felt this way, but I want her to be ambitious in life and not to be afraid to go after what she wants. I want her to feel that she can have a seat at any table and not have to compromise who she is as a person. And I think you have to be ambitious before anything else because it has to come from the mind first, right?
Yeah.
And so-
Everything is 90% of mind and less of skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the skill you can always build up later.
You can always,
But
yes.
you've got to have that drive.
Think
So,
about
yeah.
my path. I have an undergraduate's degree in business management and an MBA in HR management. I've worked on Capitol Hill in politics. I've worked in training and development. I've worked in airports, and now I'm doing some other things, but in addition to my consulting, but none of which, had anything to do with where I started, right?
Yeah.
So you learn, People want to know that you can learn, but you have to have that fire in you to want to do things. And if they see that ambition.
Do you want to know what my word is for you?
I know what your word is for me.
No, you don't know.
What is it? What is it?
Dynamic.
Dynamic. Oh, gosh. Thank you.
You are so dynamic. You
Oh, my
walk into
gosh.
a room, you smile, you light it up.
Oh.
You want people, you bring in people. You bring people to you to want to talk
Thank
to you, to
I
find out
appreciate
more
that.
about you,
Yeah, thank you.
to want to know what makes you tick.
Oh,
All of those things. I think it's, not everyone has that.
so someone else told me, a former boss of mine, I asked her, because I had no experience in what I was doing when I came to the airport, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And she says, I'm hiring you because you're dynamic. You have a dynamic personality. And I said, wow, okay. I never thought of myself like that. But, she kind of, not to the extent of what you just said, but she kind of explained to me that personality is what they needed to make that program grow. So,
Well, because the rest you can always learn.
Exactly.
Like I mentioned, you can put your nose to the grindstone. You can learn all of those things, but you can't do that initial. You can't learn that initial bringing people in and walking into a room and people want to talk to you.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's something that's
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
pretty rare. Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, being a mother to
Oh,
a
gosh.
15-year-old. And, my daughter, she actually is working on this.
Yes.
She had to leave a little early today. She's got finals tomorrow. She's at
wow.
USD.
Okay.
But, it's hard with responsibilities of life
Mhm.
and a career, and one is demanding. And, I think you do everything with full
Oh,
steam
my
ahead.
gosh.
Because you also know that, again, you want to be a good role model for your daughter, but you also want to do a good job and you want to help these businesses because
Right.
what can happen on the other end.
Yes.
So I guess, how do you balance those things?
Oh, my gosh.
Everyone laughs when I
I have a really good support system.
Yeah.
I do.
that's
I
very
will say
helpful.
that, to back up, my husband I met my husband, and um, I knew when we met and we got to talking that our life was going to be a whirlwind because I knew the path that he was going, right? And so he was uh, gone a lot. As I said, he was a Navy pilot. He retired after 20 some odd years, more than about, I guess if you include his college, he went to Naval Academy, that might be 27, I think it is. But he's always been very, very supportive. When he's home, he's got daughter duty. They call it daddy-daughter time, you know. So I have him. And with military families, what a lot of people don't realize is, especially in what my husband does, pilots, you always end up especially with the type of aircraft that he flew, you end up together at some point because there's only so many places you can go, right? And so that is the family that you did not choose, that you meet early on in your career, and you are closer than family in a lot of cases. So you always have those people. I have someone right now that I've known since, God, for 22 years or something like that. And her oldest, I think, was maybe 7, 8 months old when I met her, and she's like 24 now. So, that gives you, and if we needed something, like I would want to go visit with my husband in Singapore. And I flew my daughter at 2 years old to San Diego so that she could watch my daughter. And then I flew to Singapore. So you have that, that small group of people that you trust with your life, with your children's lives, right? And so, and the same with her. So we just kind of developed that type of support system. So I learned that early on with military families, right? And so moving forward to today, I still have that. I have that with my husband now that he's retired. We have 2 homes. We live in Las Vegas and we live in San Diego. And we tag team even from afar. And when he's not here, I have that, still have that military support system, and we're not even in the military anymore. We're retired. But I still have that support system. So when I need to do things, if I need to travel, there's somebody always there, right? To come and I do the same for them. So that's really how I balance, because I have that support system. If I didn't have that, and a lot of prayer. If I
Right?
didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be.
I love how encouraging that is to young women that are maybe looking at marrying into the military, because you do. That there's hope outside of, if you're living far away from your family and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I have a group of gals that, our kids, started out,
Yeah.
they were really young, preschool, kindergarten. It does take a village.
It takes, oh my God, that's
It
our
just
favorite.
does. It takes a
That's
village.
our favorite. And it's funny because when I first married my husband and I started talking to my mother about, I was like, wow, these military spouses, like, they are so connected. And so now my mother, initially, she would say, well, be careful who you let watch the baby, or, and I'm like, but it's different. You have to live it to understand it. But I've done a lot of work with young military spouses, right? And to help them get to where they need to be so that they understand this. When we were stationed in Hawaii, I started a web, a online chat blog for military spouses. It was called the Mil Spouse Connect, where military spouses who didn't always engage in different support groups could go to that website. They could find out about deployments. They could find out about, helping them to understand how to navigate that deployment, or balance their checkbook, or if they're in a certain city, and they needed help with the kids, or just a minute to go to the grocery store, they could go onto that website and type in what their needs were, and somebody else could, see that and help them. I did that. I worked with the fleet and family support groups when we were stationed in Hawaii, and helping those military spouses navigate the process. So my husband being, an officer, it was kind of we have those groups. It was kind of our jobs, but I took it to another level, because I said, wait a minute, they can come to these meetings and they can hear senior officer spouses' wives speak about this. But a lot of times they're intimidated by that, right? And a lot of times they need a little bit more hand holding. So that's what prompted me to do this website for them. So I've always been in that type of mindset of helping these spouses, because they don't know.
Well,
In a lot of cases, the young ones,
well, that's true, and then they feel lost, and then it causes a lot of problems.
It
I
does.
think with the
Yeah.
the family unit.
Oh, yeah.
So do you have role models or mentors that really helped you? Or
Yes.
I tend to I look at myself and I think, oh yes, I liked this about that person and that about that person.
Yes.
I'm more of a little bit of here and a little bit
bit of
there
mhm.
kind of thing. And it wasn't so much, I don't think, with my parents really. I think it was more with people that I that were out and, that I would meet.
Yeah.
And I would say, oh yeah, I think that is really cool about that person. Because and then you find your strengths. I think
Yes.
that that also shapes you too. But tell me about that. How does that look for you?
So it's interesting that you say that, because, when I meet students that I mentor, I ask them a lot of the times, who is your role model? And they always give me one person. And I always tell them, you need to have more than one more role model, and you need to have a diverse group of role models, right? Because everybody is going to bring something different to the table that you can use along your journey. So I will have to say, my first role model, of course, like most girls, well, not, was my mother. Because my mother, we had a very demanding life, different life. And my father was a lot of times working out of the country, so he wasn't always there. So my mother worked and raised 2 children in a foreign country.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And so, but she was always, she always instilled in us, and especially me, that in this country, in this world that we live in, women have to to be 2 steps ahead, you know. And so that has always been my mindset in everything I do. I have to be 2 steps ahead of the game, right? Now we're kind of different now because the world has evolved and women are, in some very outstanding
Sort of.
positions. Yeah, sort of, kind of,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
But I will say my, in growing up, so I had like role models growing up, and mostly who were family because I had I had family who did a lot of things as it relates to work and jobs choices. There was a lot of medical, so I had those role models. But as I started getting older, and learning what I wanted to really do in life, that group became smaller. There's a gentleman that I have that's actually in the industry that I'm in now, who I've known forever, who was a role model for me. And he taught me how to navigate one side because this industry that I'm in, people have always looked at it as a male dominating industry. It's, aviation. And he taught me how to navigate through this industry, right? And then, the woman who brought me to the airport authority, she was a CEO. She was African American woman, Thella Bowens, brought me into San Diego Airport Authority after, and I call her even today for advice. So, and then I had a lot of political, yes, I know. I have a lot of political role models. And
I like that about you. You still want to grow. You still want more knowledge. And I tell people all the time, I'm going to continue to work toward the best self that I can possibly be.
Exactly.
Through all different channels, all different kinds of people, till the day I die.
Yeah.
Yes, till
You're
the day
never too old to learn.
No. And when you get to that point, that's when you won't grow anymore and you will just stagnate and you will...
You got to evolve.
Absolutely.
Because the world around us is evolving.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, okay, we're getting close to the end, so I have to know this question.
Gosh.
Okay, what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders? I know it's a long question, but seriously, I think you are so dynamic and so driven and so vibrant, and I think you're very inspiring. And so what would be some advice that you would give young women?
A couple of things. When people say you can't, work harder to show them that you can, because there are going to be a lot of people that say you can't. Dream big and invest in yourself. A lot of times we don't do that. We're just so focused on getting to the finish line. We don't stop and invest in ourselves, right? Relax. The future is already unfolding from long planted seeds. Someone told me that a long time ago. So you and I are planting seeds for your daughter, for my nieces, your nieces, so relax. The future is already unfolding.
I love that.
From long planted seeds.
When I get from that, when you say unfolding, I think of a sunflower because I love sunflowers.
Exactly.
And I think of all of the petals opening up and all that's going to happen. I love that.
Yes.
That is really amazing.
We are the core,
Yep.
and it's unfolding for those coming behind us, right?
Yep.
And we're paving the way. So I would say, make sure you have a seat at the table. I mean, that seems to be a lot of people are saying that, but it's so true. Because anybody can use what you say and your knowledge to make their dream bigger. But if you're at the table, you can make your dream bigger. And that's what I teach my daughter.
Regina,
Rebecca,
you're a fabulous role
You're
model.
fabulous.
Oh, gosh. Thank you so much for coming today and all your inspiring words. And truly, you really are dynamic and just a lovely person. And your daughter is very lucky to have you as her mom.
Oh my
and
gosh.
all of the other women that are out there listening to this interview, I just hope they see or, listen and see and envision how amazing you are and how you just want really good things for people.
I do. That is, my husband, I think I aggravate my husband sometimes because I talk about this nonstop. But I really, my passion is seeing people grow. And along the way, I'm growing as well because I'm learning from those that I'm helping too, right? But I appreciate your kind words, and I really thank you for inviting me to share a little bit about myself and my story on your wonderful platform.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learn how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with CEO host Rebecca Jones.
You have been listening to a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands. Find more stories at cloudcast.us.